Now, Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on a Thursday. Hope yours is getting along just fine. We're working towards the weekend here with you for 2 hours. Casey Gaines, Taylor Sharp back there on the ones and twos. Tigers eyeing a transfer portal linebacker. Talked about that in 15 minutes. Transfer portal closed. What has been the departure from LSU? Saints make a coaching change. There's some names that are floating around potentially the Saints could be interested in as far as offensive staff's concerned. We're going to start and take a look at the divisional round coming up this weekend in the National Football League. SEC basketball as well. We also play some take it or leave it. I was planning on leading with something other than LSU basketball. That was my intent. But as I started to think about it more and more, I thought, you know what? Let's talk about it. We're not going to really talk about the game last night because who wants to do that? It was another epically bad offensive performance. They started 2 of 14. They started 4 of 20. They simply couldn't score any points. For the game, they shot 29 points. 29 points. For the game, close to 29 points. For the game, they shot 29%. They were 26% in the first half, 32% in the second half. They missed their last 10 shots. They can't score. Haney led with that on his show. That's they don't put the ball in the basket. What they're able to do offensively is bordering on impossible. It's grossly probable. It's bordering on impossible. They were 7 of 24 on layups. You heard if you were listening to the broadcast. They're shooting significantly below 50% on layups and dunks in SEC play. They can't put it in the basket. Dunks, layups, 3-footers, 8-footers, free throws, threes, none of it goes in. So that's not all that important to talk about. What is kind of what to expect from this team and this program. And we knew a lot of things, and forgive me, because what I go over here at the beginning is going to be rehash material that you've all heard and that you're very familiar with, but I think it sets the tone for the discussion. We know that Matt McMahon took the job with no players. We know he had to go crazy in the transfer portal and sign some late guys in this class and start from scratch. Everyone knows that. Okay, we're there. We know that the SEC is far better in basketball than it was 10 or 12 years ago. Better teams. Got it. We know this schedule was loaded up with cupcakes in the beginning, and it was. And they won them all. They lost one game against Kansas State, one of the Power 5 teams they played, at the buzzer. You know all that. And I think this thing got kind of tilted off its axis a little bit when they went 12-1 in the non-conference and then played Arkansas straight up at home and beat them, and then went to Rupp and had a shot in the air to tie at the buzzer. And I think at that point, a lot of people, myself included, we did power rankings in the SEC. I think I put them 6th or 5th. But everybody kind of went, well, they're okay. Like, this is a pretty good team. And then they've gone out and basically been non-competitive. They were non-competitive against A&M in College Station. They got beat by double digits at home by Florida. They were totally non-competitive against Alabama. And they weren't competitive last night against Auburn. Yes, they cut it to 2 in the second half. It immediately ballooned back to 11, and then they weren't competitive the rest of the game. There was a 4-minute stretch where they made some shots, and that doesn't count. There are 36 other minutes to play. And so we went from this kind of headed towards a high to like, whoa, wait a second, this is not good. When in reality, it probably should have been a little bit more like the early part of this football season where you get beat by Florida State and you go, yeah, well, not quite there. And you get handled by Tennessee, and you go, well, we're not quite there. And that's where the similarity stopped, because football took off and got a couple huge wins, and okay. I don't think anybody was pouting too bad when they lost to Georgia. But the expectation level for football was pretty much set, and it never rose very much. And with basketball, I think the expectation was set much lower than it may have been with football, but it kind of rose, and then now it's crashed. We knew they weren't going to win very many games right out of shooting SEC play. Now, losses are one thing, getting blown out are others, scoring less than 50 points another. I'm on the same page as you. We're just laying everything out here. But what I'm telling you is our expectation level rose a little bit higher than it should have based on a horrendous non-conference schedule and a couple of games against teams that aren't quite what we thought they were. That's Arkansas and Kentucky, obviously. Let me tell you what this team is comprised of, because we haven't revisited this in 2 months. Adam Miller did not play last year. You're aware. But as a freshman, he did play. He shot 34% from three. He averaged 8 points per game. I tried to pump the brakes on saying he was some elite scorer before the season started. I said, look, I know that they were bad on offense last year and that it was very easy to go, look, we needed Miller to fix it. And to assume that he's some sort of superstar is a little much. Yes, he was Mr. Basketball in the state of Illinois. Yes, he played on Team USA. Yes, he started every game for a 1 seed. He can help. He's not going to go score like Cam Thomas did. And then he came out and set the world on fire the first 3 weeks. And myself, I came on the air and I said, I may have been wrong. He may be just a really good scorer and really good shooter. But at Illinois, started 31 games, shot 39% from the floor, 34% from three, scored 8 a game. He's shooting 32% from three, just 2 ticks worse. He's scoring 12 a game, a little bit better because they lean on him more than a 1 seed would have. He's about what he was 2 years ago. And yeah, you're supposed to get better from your freshman to junior year. Yeah, he also missed 17 months. Cam Hayes. He's now a guy that's going to handle a lot of duties for you because Juice Hill stepped away. His freshman year, he played 23 minutes a game at NC State. He shot 36% from three, 39% from the floor. He scored 8 a game. Last year, 13 starts, coming off the bench for an NC State team that was 4-16 in the ACC. He shot 34% from the floor. 34%, not from three, 34% from the floor, and scored 7 points a game. This year, 8 points a game, 8.4. He came off the bench for a team that was 4-16 in the ACC, and he's basically what he was. He's shooting a little better from the floor. He's 49% from the floor, 39% from three. Better than he was at NC State, but that's Derek Fountain. You go to him a lot. He starts now. He's on the floor a bunch. Last year, he played in 25 games. He started 3 games at Mississippi State for a team that was 8-10 in the SEC and fired their coach. He started 3 games. Last year, he shot 34% from the floor and scored 1.8 points per game at Mississippi State. This year, 55% from the floor. He's scoring 7 points a game. Made a little jump because he plays more. But he came off the bench for a team that was middle of the pack in the league and fired their coach. Trey Hannibal. He's out there a ton. He won you the Arkansas game. They couldn't stop him. Last year, first of all, he went to South Carolina and transferred out to go to Murray State. Okay, take that for what it's worth. He goes to Murray State. He shoots 52% from the floor. He attempts 13 threes the entire season. He scores 9 a game for Murray State in the OVC. This year, he scores 6.5 a game in a tougher league. And he still doesn't shoot threes. He shot 4 all year. That's who you signed. KJ Williams. We'll go to him. He's your best player. Last year, Murray State, 18 points per game. This year, LSU, 17.9 points per game. He's shooting a little bit better from the free throw line, 11 points better from the free throw line, shooting better from three, 13 points better from three, but not as well around the basket because it's a little tougher down there in the league. The point is, this is the team you were forced to go field at the 11th hour. And if you want to sit here and say, he's got talent, they got the guys that can do it, he just can't coach them. Hold on now. He got dealt an impossible deck of cards and then said, go play poker. So he actually accumulated a few cards. He was, all right, I'll draw 12. And he got a couple he could play. But this team that he cobbled together in 50 days, in my opinion, is not an indictment on what his tenure is going to be at LSU. And if you think that way, man, I got some serious issues with that. You had to go get some guys. You got a couple Power 5 players who came off the bench who have played at that level but weren't very efficient. They're playing at that level right now, and they're not all that efficient. You got some mid-major players who were asked to step up in class. One of them's done so, and the other two have given you what they can give you. You've got a guy coming off a knee injury who is asked to be a more potent scorer than he was 2 years ago at his previous stop, last time he played, and he's scoring more points, but it's not all that efficient. And there comes a point when you look at the guys on this team and you look at their strengths and weaknesses and you realize it's going to be tough to score in this league. And it's really tough. So in my opinion, this LSU basketball team is a placeholder. They're the foundation, and the most important thing you can do. Now, Matt McMahon's got to coach these guys. He's got to go out there and try to get the best out of them he can. He's got to go try to win. But the fodder for us as the fans and people who care about the program, people that want to see Matt McMahon succeed and the program reach the heights that it did a few years ago, the most important thing is roster development. You got to go get guys. And I can look across this league at the teams that are playing great basketball, and they've all got transfers that have come in and helped. Now, Matt McMahon got some transfers. He also got them saying, hey, they just fired their coach. There's a huge FBI scandal going on here, but I'd like you to come. We don't have any players, and maybe we're in the tournament next year, maybe we're not, but I'd love to see you come on and try. And he got a team together that is going out there and trying to compete. And they haven't been able to the last couple of weeks. But hopefully they're mentally tough enough to get to the last 7 games. He's got to go recruit. He's got to hit the transfer portal. Alabama, they got a couple of guys they signed last year. They've got Quinterly, who's a transfer. They've got Sears, who's a transfer. And then you signed Brandon Miller, who's the best freshman in the country. There you are. Calipari's best guys, Shebue and Frederick on the outside, transfers. Then you sign a couple of stud freshmen. Texas A&M, got a Duke transfer, got a Michigan State transfer. Those are your 2 front court players. They're 5-0 in the league. Arkansas, signed some 5 stars, added a transfer from Wichita State, and Council who's playing great. It's year to year. It's not like it was with Will Wade, where you got to go get the class you can, Waters, and you bring that first group. And then here comes Days and Emmett Williams and Naz Reid, and then you follow it up with Watford. Like, that was how you would do it then. Now, you do have to go get those big-time recruits. And I'm a little bit disappointed in what the freshman output on this team has been. But I think trying to indict this program and the future of it over the next 3 years, or saying that basketball has been killed at LSU, or ranting and like, it is what it is, man. They brought in what they could get, and they're trying the best they can. They're limited. You've got to turn the roster over quickly because a lot of guys are going to be gone from this team, and you've got to backfill it. And you've got to hope the NCAA comes here and clears the air and lets Matt McMahon go do it. I know it sucks to watch them get dusted night in and night out. And I know that there's not going to be very many people in the Assembly Center on Saturday, and that the last 2 weeks in this town with that baseball team on the horizon are going to turn the dial off. That's just the way it goes in this town. And that's an indictment on the next 2 months, not the next 2 years, in my opinion. That's just the way that I see it. I'm plenty open to any disagreement and discussion. Bayou Ford chat, wide open, fire away. But that's the way that I see it right now. In terms of Tiger basketball, all right, we can move on from that. Linebacker, maybe looking to lean LSU's way. I'll tell you who that might be next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bet the NFL playoffs with FanDuel, where every play is a rush. This weekend, FanDuel giving all customers a no-sweat same-game parlay during the divisional round. Doesn't matter if you're new to FanDuel or if you already have an account. You'll get free bets back if your NFL same-game parlay doesn't hit. Same-game parlays let you combine all your favorite bets for a chance at a bigger payday. You can bet a quarterback over passing touchdowns, running back rushing yards. You can even ride with the thousands of other fans and bet popular same-game parlays already made for you. If you're new to FanDuel, just join now with a sign-up code 1045 ESPN to see for yourself why it's America's #1 sportsbook. If you already have FanDuel, you can start building your no-sweat same-game parlay today. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Must be 21 and present in Louisiana, 3+ legs, minimum $1 bet required. Refund issued, non-withdrawable free bet. Expires 7 days after receipt. Max bonus $5 unless otherwise specified. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. If you're somebody who has a gambling problem, wants help, call 1-877-770-STOP.
Our listeners fire up their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You ever heard the tale of the misunderstood bull? A menacing beast that was born to float. A force of nature. The embodiment of grace. Quite grand, yet quiet and nimble. The Infiniti QX80.
Experience the Infiniti QX80 at your local Infiniti retailer.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
All right, let's say ah.
Where'd my spotlight go?
Super weird, but we can take care of it.
Get in and get better at Patient Plus.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Time doesn't stop, and the world keeps spinning. Community, culture, and communications, the powerful circle that connects us together. We're creating the next evolution, a network built for every possibility, moving faster than ever before, streaming us forward into the future. And the revolution is closer than you think. RTC, ETEL, and Vision are now Rev. New name, same company.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we...
Hannigrove, join us for the Friday edition of Handy Time. We start with Jimmy Ott's Game Time from Rufino's at 10 a.m. Take you all the way up until 1 o'clock. Big weekend in college basketball, plus the NFL divisional playoffs. Handy Time, noon weekdays, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Transfer portal closed up in the last 24 hours. I honestly don't even know when it was. Noon, 5 o'clock, midnight, I don't even know. But it's closed now. So we'll talk about LSU's departures coming up here in about 10 minutes and kind of what impact that may have. But obviously the impact offset by those that they can bring in. And they're still not done searching for pieces to the puzzle for next year. And I think maybe the last real need on this team, you can add talent really anywhere, and that's a good thing, especially this day and age. But in terms of need, we're short on numbers and maybe short on SEC caliber talent, is that linebacker. I think you lost more than you anticipated there. I don't know if they thought DeMario Tolan was heading out. You had some guys that had an opportunity to come back and did not. So linebacker's a spot that I think they're paying attention to. You look at the roster now, you've got Greg Penn, who played a lot for you this year. The anticipation is that Harold Perkins will move inside to a degree. I don't know if he's right inside middle linebacker, inside linebacker type deal, or if there's some sort of creative way you can get to the edge. Again, for the 9,000th time, football X's and O's, not what you're going to come to me for all the time. But I do understand Harold Person's skill set, and I feel like the edge is a nice spot for him. So you've got West Weeks, you've got Whit Weeks, Christian Brathwaite comes this summer. What can we do to add some guys in there? I think Ovi Akufo is more of an edge jack type guy. They need somebody on the interior of the defense that can make a lot of tackles sideline to sideline. And their eyes right now are on Omar Spates. Who is Omar Spates? Well, Omar Spates has already visited LSU since entering the transfer portal last week. He was a team captain for Oregon State this past year. It appears that LSU has done a really good job with him. So what does he bring? He was first team All Pac-12 last year on the inside. He made 83 tackles, 8 TFLs. He had a couple of tackles for loss against Florida in the bowl game, kind of half of Florida's team, but he did make a couple plays behind the line of scrimmage there. So this is a guy who was a team captain, the leading tackler on a Pac-12 team that was pretty good. So he was in the 2009 cycle, 2019 cycle, meaning he played in 19, 20, didn't count, 21, 22, and 23 will be his last year to play. So this is one of those stopgap deals, but bringing in a guy that led a quality Pac-12 team in tackles sounds like a good idea to me. You're talking about a 6'1", 225, 230-pound inside linebacker. I think that works nicely. And quite frankly, again, I don't profess to be an expert here, but I think if you're going to put Penn and Spates in the middle with the ability to move Perkins side to side, put him on the edge, put him in the slot at times, move him around so that he's a little bit more difficult to identify, and you've got to kind of pay attention to where he is on the field. This gives you a quote-unquote Micah Baskerville type who's just in the middle, who's just making tackles. That's what I see from Omar Spates. And so I think that's a really nice piece to add next to Penn with Perkins that allows West Weeks to be a depth piece, that allows Whit Weeks to be a depth piece, that allows he and Christian Brathwaite to come in and not be thrust into way too much action, maybe play some special teams and watch some of the older guys do it. So this is really, to me, the last true need. They signed a million defensive linemen and edge guys in the transfer portal. They signed a million secondary guys in the transfer portal. It seemed you look good on the offensive line. You've got your guys that are back. You've got the guys that you brought in a big-time signing class. Your quarterback room, in my opinion, still looks very good, even with Walker Howard headed to Oxford. You've got depth at running back, although I think all agree that the the guys who have been to the NFL type level LSU's had may not quite be there. You do have depth. You've got elite players at wide receiver. Your tight end room looks very much better. Very much better. Not great English there, but it looks better than it did last year when you were really hurting for depth. So you've brought in some guys at that position as well. I think that linebacker was the last maybe start, plug-and-play piece you had on the entire defense, and now with Omar Spates, that would do it. Now, this is not a done deal as of yet, but most of the people in the industry that talk to sources within the LSU program feel like this is a guy that's probably headed to Baton Rouge. So it's not a finished product, and we still haven't gone through a full spring portal window. What does that look like after spring practice? Is there a number of guys who maybe, God forbid, 2 guys get hurt, or you have some guys who are upset and want to leave somewhere, whether it's LSU or somewhere else, and maybe that window opens and you continue to supplement here and there. But I think my opinion, because we've never seen this before, is that most of this is going to be done in this window, the one from December into the end of January. The one after spring ball, maybe with like quarterbacks or something really goes wrong. But you don't have the coach firings in the spring. You don't have the angst of a bad season in the spring. It just feels like that's going to be a less volatile time where everybody gets their feet on the ground around Christmas, and as the new spring semester starts, you go through spring ball, and most people will stay put. Now, that remains to be seen. Maybe I'm nuts, and we've opened the floodgates, and here they go. I didn't like where I was running in that drill in spring ball on that Thursday or whatever, and so you decide to move on. But it feels like this is towards the end of it. So with LSU hopefully being able to pull in Omar Spates to play linebacker, the roster looks pretty good. I'll just tell you right now, this is middle of January talk, which is on my college football calendar of emotions that is like clockwork. I feel pretty good about LSU's roster next year, really do. And I know that the transfer portal is hard for people to stomach. I know that people don't like the quitting mentality, and I use air quotes there. I think that there are a lot of people, myself included, that think it's a little bit much to ask college football coaches to babysit an entire roster all year long. But LSU is going to benefit from this. Yeah, it's no fun that Walker Howard left. Yeah, DeMario Tolan leave is no good. I'm disappointed when Eli Ricks or Max Johnson decides they're out after having a big impact on LSU early in their careers. But there's going to be more good players at quote-unquote lesser programs that are going to want to make a step up. And that's what somebody like Omar Spates would be like. And I think that that's a chance for LSU to really benefit. So we'll keep you updated if we hear anything. I think it's possible that we will over the next couple of days. But right now, just on the lookout for Omar Spates, the former team captain, leading tackler from Oregon State, who has visited LSU and is said to be potentially leaning LSU's way. We'll stick with the transfer portal here briefly and kind of talk about those who have departed the LSU program and the ones that I think may hurt more than others. We'll get to that next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Been telling you about Hunters for the Hungry all month long. They're January's champion of Louisiana, presented by LWCC. If you didn't know, one deer can provide 240 meals, and that's what Hunters for the Hungry aims to help in our great state with. We know that we've got a ton of folks in this state that are big-time hunters, big-time fishermen. They harvest a lot over the time of their seasons, and Hunters for the Hungry does their best to match those hunters with the needy and to create a relationship there and to get some needy people fed. They've got unbelievable programs like Clean Out Your Freezer Day. It's held every September. Sportsmen are encouraged to make room in their freezer for what they're going to bring home. So you got to clear that freezer out. And when they do, they put up 35 drop locations set throughout the state, all properly packaged, and that protein is accepted and welcome to help feed the needy. Hunters for the Hungry, awesome for our economy, awesome for the needy people in our state, and a wonderful influence on our great state. And that's why LWCC has identified them as champion of Louisiana. If you know a champion of Louisiana, whether it's a nonprofit organization that's doing great work, a person in our community that's doing awesome things in our great state, go to lwcc.com/champions. lwcc.com/champions and nominate someone or some entity to be a champion of Louisiana so that we can tell their story courtesy of LWCC. LWCC is Louisiana loyal.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Time doesn't stop, and the world keeps spinning. Community, culture, and communications, the powerful circle that connects us together. We're creating the next evolution, a network built for every possibility, moving faster than ever before, streaming us forward into the future. And the revolution is closer than you think. RTC, ATEL, and Vision are now Rev. New name, same company.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
You ever heard the tale of the misunderstood bull? A menacing beast who was born to float. A force of nature. The embodiment of grace. Quite grand, yet quiet and nimble. The Infinity QX80.
Experience the Infinity QX80 at your local Infinity retailer.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you.
The divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Tune in Saturday when the Chiefs host the Jaguars at 3:30 p.m., followed by the Eagles and the Giants at 7:15. Then on Sunday, the Bills host the Bengals at 2 p.m. and the 49ers host the Cowboys at 5:30, right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Moving right along here on a Thursday edition, Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Glad you were spinning it with us here. Wanted to take a look at LSU in the transfer portal and what has departed the program at this point. And now that the door is closed on this session of the transfer portal, as it were, 17 former LSU Tigers did enter the transfer portal. So we'll go through those, and I'll just kind of talk about the ones that I think may leave a little bit of a hole or an impact that LSU will be missing. It starts with Walker Howard at quarterback. I said my piece on this when it happened. I would love it if Walker Howard was still on the roster. That's a talented quarterback with Louisiana roots who I think has a lot of potential to play quarterback in the SEC. But I do believe that if I was able to keep two quarterbacks from this roster moving forward, it would be Jaden Daniels and Garrett Nussmeier, and that's what LSU has here. So, I think Walker's got a chance, and we'll see what happens with Spencer Sander now headed to Oklahoma State, where now Jackson Dart may be the odd man out. We'll see. But as far as next year goes and moving forward, I think LSU is in great shape with the quarterback position. I do think Jack Besh would have had a role on next year's team. He got hurt in camp, and it just never quite came back. Obviously, he had the dropped kickoff against Tennessee, but I think he would have played a bigger role had he been healthy the entire season, and I think he could have played a role in next year's team. However, LSU is pretty solid in the receiving room. You bring in Aaron Anderson, who's a kick returner, slot-type guy as well, so I think LSU is just fine there. Cole Taylor didn't have a huge role in this past year's team, and they're bringing in a lot of talent in the tight end position. Mason Taylor established himself at that spot, so I don't think that the tight end LSU is in a bad way at all. Cam Wire was a guy who had 10 starts in his first 3 years, played in 22 games, and was slated to be the tackle on this team, but Florida State game was not good for really anybody on the offensive line. Brad Davis and company said, let's make some changes. Any offensive line depth is good. You've heard that from me a million times because those guys are going to get banged up over the course of the year, but he would have been just that, a depth piece. And so now probably ask some freshmen to be that as opposed to a fifth-year guy. Same with Cardell Thomas, who never quite got to the starting lineup. Xavier Hill, who's headed to Memphis. He played in 7 games. He did have 2 starts in 2021, but he was hurt most of the game, some of the year this year, and so he's out of here. That would have been a nice depth piece. Same goes for Marcus Dumerville, who was a sophomore. He's headed to Maryland. Look, another depth piece that never really was a key piece of the line. So, yeah, losing 4 offensive linemen to the transfer portal in Cam Wire, Cardell Thomas, Xavier Hill, and Marcus Dumerville, not a great thing. But, again, none of those guys were slated to be starters, and you've got 4 starters coming back, plus Garrett Dellinger, who has started a lot of games. So it's just your depth that's hurt there. Here's where I think LSU may lose a little bit of a punch, and that's with the departures of Xavier Carter and Desmond Little. Those guys were not key pieces. Carter played in 18 games over 2 years. He had 7 tackles, had a sack. But he was undersized when he got to LSU, like 205 pounds. And growing into that frame as a junior, senior, maybe on the edge, that's a guy who could have really helped you. Desmond Little, I think, is a guy that most people expected to play a little bit. He played in 5 games in 2021, had 2.5 sacks. I thought he was going to be a guy who factored in next year, and he's decided to move on. So those 2 guys forced your hand. You had to go get Braden Swinson. You had to get Ovi Okufe. You had to go get some transfer portal guys because you lost those 2 guys on the edge with the departures of Ojulari and Gay, and with whatever you want to do with Harold Perkins. Like your hand was forced a little bit there due to the departure. So I do think that those 2 guys could have had a role. Philip Webb kind of fits into that category, but he didn't play at all this year because of injuries. Demario Tolan, that one hurts a little bit. That's a guy who I think they thought would be in the mix. He's headed to Auburn. Look, he played in 12 games. He had 10 tackles. It wasn't like his statistical season was something awesome, but he's got the build. He's got the potential, and there was playing time to be had at linebacker. So you thought that may be a guy that would jump in there. Colby Fields is headed for Tech. He was going to be a depth piece for you. Antoine Sampa never played this year either. So I think Tolan, as well as the edge guys on defense in the interior up front on the front 7, those are guys that could have hurt a little bit. And then you got the cornerback and safety positions. Cornerback, Demarius McGee, Radarius Jones, and Jaylus David Robinson all moved on. McGee's headed to Kansas. Radarius Jones headed to Mississippi State. Jalen Davis Robinson, headed to SMU. Your depth got hurt there, and that's where your room was pretty much empty. You brought in a bunch of old guys. You brought in Jarek Bernard-Converse, and you brought in Colby Richardson, and you brought in Fouché, and you brought in Brooks, and you brought in a bunch of old players. And then you had a class come in, some of the younger players, Demarius McGee, Radarius Jones, Jalen Davis Robinson. Well, those are going to be the guys that you're holding the place, and they're going to come up and maybe help you, and then they all left. So then you got to go to the portal hard on corner, and they did that. They brought in Denver Harris. They went up to Syracuse. I think they've addressed the need, but I don't think it worked exactly the way that you kind of thought, where, okay, we're going to sign a class of DBs here, and then we've got older players. They're going to be here for a year, maybe 2. When they move on, our younger guys are going to come up. Well, those guys ducked out pretty early, so you're not left with a ton there at corner. And then at safety, Derek Davis moves on. Maybe you thought he could be a running back as well, but he's decided he's going to move on and go to Pittsburgh. So as you look at it, yeah, Walker Howard is going to be the biggest name that jump out. I think Demario Tolan and Desmond Little are probably the 2 that I think would have had the biggest impact on next year's team, and certainly I think that Jack Besh could have had an impact, but you've got some guys at wide receiver that can help you. All in all, if I would have told you back in November, right after the Bama game, that Sunday or Monday, said, hey, by the way, 17 guys going to leave after this year, I would have said, wait a second. We had 40 guys when he got here, and then you went and added 30, and now 17 are going to bail. well, we're still around 65 guys. We're 20, like, geez. So it sounds really bad. But again, if you're like me, we're just kind of getting used to this way. And we're getting used to the numbers that are involved in this changing of the guard and the musical chairs that are position by position where you just never really know. I have a feeling that the coaching staff's got a pretty decent handle on it, while we from the outside don't have a clue, barring what we hear on Twitter or social media or Instagram or whatever somebody says. But, man, if you would have told me with the numbers issues LSU is going to have, by the way, after that season's over, you're going to lose 17 guys, I'd have gone, this is a nightmare. Like, this is really bad. But I don't think it is. I think there's only like 3 or 4 guys that I thought would play a pretty big role in next year's team, and you've gone to the transfer portal and signed some guys that you think take their place, and you've signed a top 5 class in the country. So I think the roster management, which has become the most important thing in all the sports, I thought it always was in baseball. I thought it was significantly more than the coaching in basketball, and now I believe it to be more than anything in football as well. I mean, football is a coach-heavy sport, but listen to Kirby Smart talk. You don't got good players, you got no chance. In baseball, coaching is vital, but at the end of the day, they got to go out there and you got to throw it over the plate, you got to hit it, and you got to catch it. There's not as many plays. There's scouting reports and there's pitch selections and all that kind of, I mean, I'm not trying to devalue it a ton, but in the end, go play. In basketball, you got to call sets and you got to be in position and be well coached and understand your timeouts, and certainly coaching is a big deal. You got to have the players in college basketball. Go get them. You got to have 7 or 8 guys that can go. Go get them. In football, it's a huge coaching deal because there's so much scheme involved, in my opinion, more than in baseball. But this roster management piece is a big, big deal. And as I look at it, I would say, okay, they lost 17. That sounds awful, but it really, in actuality, they're okay. They added guys, and they've signed a pretty good class. I think LSU's going to be just fine. So that's my transfer portal 30 minutes of the program here on a Thursday. When we come back, we're going to talk some Saints. The Saints did make a change on their offensive staff today, and a high-profile offensive coordinator has come available. Does it make sense for the Saints to kick the tires on it? That's next on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is on Palmer. Our listeners fire up their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $8,500 off new 2022 Ram 1500s. New 2022 Ram 1500 trucks on our lot now with $8,500 off MSRP. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. If you need sales or service, the crew at Bayou is going to do right by you.
Time doesn't stop, and the world keeps spinning. Community, culture, and communications, the powerful circle that connects us together. We're creating the next evolution, a network built for every possibility, moving faster than ever before, streaming us forward into the future. And the revolution is closer than you think. RTC, ETEL, and Vision are now Rev. New name, same company.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal. Always.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Have you ever heard the tale of the misunderstood bull? A menacing beast that was born to float. A force of nature. The embodiment of grace. Quite grand, yet quiet and nimble. The Infinity QX80.
Experience the Infinity QX80 at your local Infinity retailer.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Moon Griffon is back.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR. Former Saints GM Randy Mueller joins us to talk about the Saints offseason, and the one and only Stephen A. Smith joins us. Hopefully you will as well. 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
So I planned here to do a segment on the Saints, and I'm going to do that segment, but things have changed since I did the preparation for the segment. Earlier this morning, it was announced that the Saints were parting ways with Dan Rauscher. He had been with the organization since 2013 and was serving as the tight ends coach on this team. He's done a variety of roles, but he's been the tight ends coach and the run game coordinator since 2021, so a couple seasons. And that, to me, was a harbinger of things to come. That means, okay, we understand that the defense kind of got it in gear late, but the offense just never really clicked. And this is Dennis Allen's first year. They tried to keep the band together. It didn't go the way they wanted. So the obvious thing is, well, Dennis is going to run the defense, and he's going to man that battleship, but the offense is going to need a kick in the seat. And my opinion is that it's not just going to be, we got to get a new tight ends coach. This Rauscher guy, yeah, he's been here for 10 years, but Troutman can't play anymore, and yeah, I don't really care what Juwan Johnson does. We need better tight end play, and the run game stinks. Let's go get a new. I mean, I don't think that this was going to be the only move. So in my preparation to kind of kick around and go, all right, well, what's kind of next? There was a pretty large announcement, in my view, from the Baltimore Ravens saying that they were going to let Greg Roman go. It was kind of a mutual parting of ways. Greg Roman's been the offensive coordinator there for the last 5 years. In his first year, the Ravens led the NFL in scoring. They scored 33.2 points per game. We know that Lamar Jackson won an MVP under Greg Roman. But the scoring has dipped every single year from leading the league in 19 to this year being 19th in the league at 20.6 points per game. But I think we understand when Lamar Jackson misses a month, sometimes that can happen. So my thought was, is that a guy that the Saints could consider bringing in? He's a big name. He's very much proven. He's done it with multiple quarterbacks. Is this a guy that we think can come in and give the Saints offense a shot in the arm? And I was kicking that around with Matt in the hall a little bit earlier, and he said, well, they haven't fired Pete Carmichael. I said, I know, but they got rid of Rauscher this morning. They know the offense wasn't good enough. Surely there's a change coming. Like, we've got to discuss this. And Matt is right. They have not fired Pete Carmichael. And then you look on Twitter and you see the post from John Hendricks that he is reporting, and Mike Triplett is reporting as well from New Orleans Football, that the Saints believe in Pete Carmichael and will have him back next year as the offensive coordinator. Other staff shakeups may be possible. Now, we understand that Pete Carmichael was the first lieutenant on the Saints offense. Sean Payton's running the show. Now, when Payton's out for a year, yeah, Carmichael's got to jump in. If Payton's got COVID, yeah, Carmichael's got to jump in. It's not as if he's never done the job, but Payton was the offensive guy. Well, now it's Carmichael's, and I'm not here to report facts on this, but you hear rumors like that he wasn't really wild about being the offensive coordinator, but okay, well, I'll do it. So he jumps in and it doesn't go that great. It just seemed to me like tea leaves were there to be read that the Saints were going to go hire a new offensive coordinator. Doesn't appear that's going to be the case. So what can they hire? New run game coordinator to get this thing rolling? And the obvious answer to that, as I say it out loud, is, well, they can hire a new quarterback. They could do that. I got you. That's a little tougher, a little different discussion to be had. But there are 10 teams right now that have offensive coordinator openings in the NFL. And if the Saints don't have one and are trying to bring somebody in to help out the offense, you're going to be back in the line a little bit, because there are 10 teams hiring guys to run their own offense, as opposed to the Saints, who are hiring somebody to come in and help Pete's offense. Which of those is more attractive? One, in responsibility. Two, in pay. So I had this whole thing prepped to go, look, man, Greg Roman's, that's a guy you need to go kick the tires on. And then it turns out that's not the case, because I don't think that Greg Roman is going from coordinator of the Orioles, of the Ravens, who got himself an MVP quarterback and led the league in scoring his first year, to, hey, could you come sit in on Pete's meetings? If you see something, just make a note. I don't think that works. You got to bring somebody in there that's going to be the alpha. And I just don't gather that that's the case with Pete Carmichael right now. So we'll see as things start to materialize. The Saints are fairly known to take a cooling off period after the season ends and not just Black Monday everybody into the sun. We're going to take this time. Okay, how can we get better? Here's our exit meetings. Here's our expectation level. This is what we need to move forward and do. I still don't think the Saints have a bad organization. I think they're in a little bit of trouble, and I think a shot of arm to the offense would do some wonders for the organization that it doesn't appear is coming, although they may think it is. If you're just trying to get somebody to come help Pete, I just don't know how much you're going to get there. That's hour number one here on a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Opened the show kind of State of the Union style on LSU hoops. I didn't talk too much about the Auburn game. There's not much to discuss there, but I do think that kind of a big picture look is healthy with LSU basketball right now. We did that at the top of the show. Transfer portal talk for the LSU football team. Linebacker Omar Spates may be coming in. Who left? All that at 1:15 and 1:30, and then some Saints talk at 1:45. If you missed any of that, you can always catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere you find our stuff. You can search The Hunt Palmer Show. It'll all pop up. Like, subscribe, rate, review. We certainly appreciate that. Very much looking forward to this evening. Going to get out to the Strikeout ALS benefit over at Red Stick Social. Aaron and Austin Nola put that on every year, and we're very much looking forward to getting out there. It's from 5 to 10 at Red Stick Social tonight if you want to come on and stop by. We'll be busting some pens. Looking very much forward to that. Also looking forward to hour number 2 here on the show. We got some NFL to talk in hour number 2. Also some SEC hoops to mull through as well, and some shakeups in the Southeastern Conference as far as things are up in Fayetteville. So we're going to have some Sports Center. We're going to come back, and we're going to do this one more time. Hope your Thursday is going awesome. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us. We're going to take a time out. Sports Center coming at you. Come back with us for hour number 2, Hunt Palmer Show.
There it is, the extra mile. on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal. Always.
You ever heard the tale of the misunderstood bull? A menacing beast who was born to float. A force of nature. The embodiment of grace. Quite grand, yet quiet and nimble. The Infiniti QX80.
Experience the Infiniti QX80 at your local Infiniti retailer.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Time doesn't stop, and the world keeps spinning. Community, culture, and communications, the powerful circle that connects us together. We're creating the next evolution, a network built for every possibility, moving faster than ever before, streaming us forward into the future. And the revolution is closer than you think. RTC, ETEL, and Vision are now Rev. New name, same company.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $10,000 off MSRP on all new 2022 Black Widow Jeep Gladiators in stock. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty and free delivery. If you need sales or service, the crew at Bayou is going to do right by you.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. Byron Leftwich has been fired after 4 years as the Buccaneers offensive coordinator. The move, part of an overhaul by head coach Todd Bowles, which also included 8 other coaches leaving the staff. Bucs had a big drop-off in 2022, averaged a little more than 18 points a game. They also had the NFL's worst rushing attack. The firing of Leftwich is a little curious for Canty and Carlin co-host Chris Canty.
So they fired the Super Bowl winning offensive coordinator, and they pin this underwhelming season on him, but they keep the Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator in Todd Bowles when he's proven that he can't do the job. I mean, he's literally shown us in a 5-season sample size including his tenure with the Jets, that he's not a good NFL head coach.
Chris Canty on Greeny. Amid declining results and mounting criticism, Greg Roman stepped down as Ravens offensive coordinator. Coach John Harbaugh said pending free agent quarterback Lamar Jackson will be involved in the search for the team's new OC. NBA Celtics go for an 8th straight win when they welcome the Warriors tonight, 7 Eastern ESPN Radio. Boston guard Jaylen Brown questionable with a groin injury.
We all know the game isn't over till it's over. So next time you need parts for your car, don't call it quits. Go to eBay Motors. They have 122 million parts to take your car into overtime. Get the right parts at the right prices. ebaymotors.com. Let's ride.
Now, Hunt Palmer. Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2 on a Thursday, Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Hope your week's going great. Thanks for hanging out with us here on the Capital City's leader in sports talk. Got some college basketball chatter here coming up. How'd my picks do last night? I'll let you know. We'll get there. We'll start with some NFL. I think when we get to this time of year in the NFL, you start talking about legacy, you start talking about pressure. It's fun to say must win in October. That's not ever a must win. It's just not. You could win the rest of them, and then it doesn't matter if you've lost that game. These are must win if you want to win the Super Bowl. And I think there are varying degrees of pressure that each of the 8 remaining teams face. But the interesting thing to me is that I don't think any of these teams face a massive amount of pressure. I don't get into that. I'm going to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 meaning no one cares, it's no big deal at all. 2 meaning you better win this or it's over. Like, I say 2, 10 meaning you better win this or it's over. And I think that everybody's relatively low on the scale. Like, for me, the Jags and the Giants are the 2 teams of the 8, in my opinion, that can't win the Super Bowl. I don't think the Jags and Giants are good enough to win the Super Bowl. I don't think they can win 3 more games. Both teams have a first-year head coach. Both teams have a young quarterback. Trevor Lawrence was bad early and really good late in the season. And then he was really bad early and good late in the first playoff game. But I don't think anybody in Jacksonville feels like it's now or never. I think everybody in Jacksonville feels like they're on a little bit of an upward trajectory. And you look around the division, you see a Tennessee team. It's got an aging quarterback, an aging running back with very little tread on the tires, a Colts organization that is kind of in flux at this point with no quarterback and a coaching disaster. You got the Texans who have blown the whole thing up. We'll see what they become. But you feel like you're in a pretty good spot. I don't think there's a lot of pressure on the Jags. It is what it is. I got them as 2 out of 10. I got the Giants at 2 out of 10 too. And the same stuff applies to them. I don't know that the division's quite as bad. In fact, it's not. But you've got a first-year head coach who people really believe in. You've got a quarterback that's starting to play better that you probably were close to giving up on as a fan base over his first couple of years. I don't think there's some sense that, like, oh, we better get this done. The Giants are going to be okay. So Jags and Giants, the only 2 teams I don't think they can win it, I've got them as a 2 out of 10 on this scale. Next, as far as the low end goes, I got the Chiefs at a 5. In this Reid-Mahomes era, you've been to 2 Super Bowls. You've won 1. Mahomes is about to win his 2nd. If you're trying to ascend to the elite realms of the sport, yeah, you're going to need to win a few more Super Bowls. You want to call yourself a dynasty? Yeah, you better get another one. But those are nice problems to have. It's nice to try to get into the Hall of Fame and try to be a dynasty. I don't know that there's a lot of pressure involved in that. It's just, can you do it? So it's not a 2 like the Jags and Giants, but it is a 5. I don't think there's a lot of heat on the Chiefs here. The Cowboys I've got up as a 6, not because their expectation level is through the roof, but it is the Cowboys, and they tend to garner a different reaction than most teams in the sport. You've paid your quarterback, so he's not playing for a contract. McCarthy may have been on the hot seat in August, and if they lose the game, I guess we could have the discussion, but now we can't. Sean Payton's not going to be on the market very much longer. Those whispers can shut up. I just don't think there's a ton of pressure on this team as an organization because you feel like you can get back, other than the fact that you're the Cowboys, you haven't won in a long time. Your fan base probably would like it if you did that. Taylor, do you disagree or think that there's more pressure on the Cowboys than a 6 out of 10, or do you think that there's less because nobody thought that the East was going to be very good?
I think that's about right. I think 6 out of 10 is perfect. I think there's a little bit more pressure on Dak than that, just because, yeah, one game, but he still has a lot of critics, me being one of them, admittedly. But no, as far as Mike McCarthy goes, the team as a whole, yeah, I don't think there's a ton of pressure.
Yeah, I mean, he got the contract. He's and talking about Dak, like the only pressure on that organization is coming because the owner is old. There's pressure there. He didn't have a lot of these left in front of him. So I give him a 6 out of 10. I'm right there on a 6 out of 10 with the Eagles. Your quarterback is still cheap. You were the best team in football, so it would really not look great if you couldn't beat the Giants this week. But I could also lean back on excuses. Yeah, we were playing as good as anybody in the league, and then our quarterback got hurt, and he missed a month, and then he came back and wasn't great in the playoff game. Sirianni's done a really good job. I think their front office is phenomenal. They won the Super Bowl, turned over the entire roster basically, and then have come back a handful of years later and were playing as well as anybody in the league. So I think the Eagles are just fine. I've got them as a 6. I've got the Bengals also as a 6. Same boat. The quarterback is young and cheap and figures to be there for a long time. Now, once you have to pay him a ton, it changes your roster composition. So there's some pressure there. The other part of this that puts a little bit of heat on the Bengals, you caught this year, and they played great, so don't misunderstand me, but you caught this year, the Steelers were in transition, finding a new quarterback and kind of figuring things out. It was the worst year under Tomlin. And the Ravens got hurt. Lamar got hurt. So and you still only beat him by a game. So that division figures to improve if history upholds and the Steelers get back on their feet and the Ravens are what they've been, with Ozzie Newsome and with Harbaugh and with Lamar, you assume they comes back. That's a tough division. So once you get through that division and you get to this point, there's a little bit of heat, but there's not a lot of expectation on that franchise. They play pretty loose. They're very good. I don't see that as a ton of pressure on the Bengals. I've got them as a 6. As far as the 49ers go, I've got them as a 7, which you look at Brock Purdy being the quarterback and you're like, wait a second, they got a third-team quarterback out there. How could you lump him as a 7? Because everybody just succeeds that that's the best roster in the NFL. They've won 11 games in a row. The defense is way better than everybody else. And Purdy has played well. That creates some pressure. I don't know what comes of the QB situation next year. You got a good coach and a great GM, a proud fan base that travels and supports, a new stadium. You figure they're going to be okay out there. The Rams crumble a little bit there. Cardinals, who knows what's going on. Seahawks, better than we thought. But at this point, people kind of think you're a shoo-in in the NFC and that you're going to have a chance to play for 60 minutes for it with that defense. That, to me, adds a little bit of pressure than saying, hey, it's a third-string quarter. This ain't Joe Webb playing with the Vikings in the cold a few years ago. That was probably like 10 years ago now. But that was the third-team quarterback going out there. This one feels like they need to make a push. So I've got them towards the top. I do have, at the 8 spot, the Bills. Why do I have the Bills at 8? Because that fan base sat through the 90s and had its heart ripped out 4 straight Februaries. And then they sat through 20 years, pushing 30 years of trash. Awful football. Love Kyle Williams, hell of an ambassador, hell of a Buffalo Bill, hell of a golfer. The teams that he played on were not good. And the pressure, I don't think, comes from the fact that I think this is the Bills' last run at it. Far from it. But that's a fan base that deserves a win. And this team's good enough to do it. And when you put those two things together, I think the heat turns up the highest. It's not a 9. It's not a 10, but enough already in Buffalo. We were so good for 5 years and couldn't get it done. Then we sat through 25 years of dark ages. Then we got this quarterback, and then we got to a place where we thought we were basically playing for the conference last year against the Chiefs, and our quarterback didn't get the ball, which made him change the rule in the sport. So we kind of felt jobbed by that. Keep in mind the Bengals won, but that's how you felt at the time. And now we're back. Okay, we're in. And you don't have the big bad wolf in Foxborough right now. They're not that good. Are you scared of the Jets? No. Miami's got quarterback issues now that we didn't think they had 3 months ago. So the Bills are set up, and it's not a 9, it's not a 10. But the misery they've gone through, and to get here again and to have that quarterback, I think there's a little bit of heat. Not nearly as much as I would have put on the Bucks, because this is it for Brady. On the Packers, trying to keep that marriage together with Rodgers. But it's interesting because I just don't think anybody's up against it. It's easy to see a long run of success coming for the Bills. Easy to see a long run of success coming from San Francisco. Easy to see a long run of success coming from Cincinnati, Philadelphia. Cowboys roster's good. We know what the Chiefs are. That's the 6 I think can win it. I exclude the Giants and Jags, who I think are just playing with some house money. See if you can go win another playoff game and really make things interesting for the conference championship game. But this is the most interesting NFL weekend of the year. We'll break down the games. I'll make my picks tomorrow. But just as a big picture thing, I just think it's interesting. A lot of these teams look kind of set up to be around for a while. Usually doesn't work like that. You think the Falcons, they got to that level with Matt Ryan. They'll be back. They never were. Jags got there. With Bortles, this looks pretty good. No, it's gone. Carolina, Cam's MVP. They get poof, gone. So I know how the league works, and not all these teams will stick around. But it feels at this point, without the benefit of hindsight, everybody's in a pretty good spot here. So excited to talk about it and excited to watch some football coming up this weekend. Take a time out. We will come back with my college basketball picks from last night. How'd it go? It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Well, I'll tell you about the service department at Bayou Ford. If you're looking to get your car serviced and never really have time to do it, Bayou Ford makes that easy for you. They've got 6 full-time drivers. I tell you every day about how they'll bring your new car to you. They'll do one the same. They'll bring you a loaner, new car, and they'll take your car to the dealership to get serviced. You get on about your day, get the kids to school, get the kids to practice, get to work, get wherever you need to be. And when that car's been serviced over at the dealership, they'll bring it right back to you and take the loaner back to Bayou Ford. They want it to be convenient for you. You don't have time to sit in the waiting room all day, wait for them to get a part, wait for them to diagnose something, figure it out. You're scrolling through your phone in the waiting room. It doesn't have to be that way anymore. Bayou Ford gives you that convenience in their service department. And you understand they've always got that entire inventory up at BayouFord.com. Every new purchase at Bayou Ford, million-mile powertrain warranty. Bayou Ford, BayouFord.com is the website. Bayou Ford, where they're going to do right by you.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com. Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust poll of the day. Vote daily inside off the bench, anytime. Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the poll of the day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Have you ever heard the tale of the misunderstood bull? A menacing beast that was born to float. A force of nature. The embodiment of grace. Quite grand, yet quiet and nimble. The Infiniti QX80.
Experience the Infiniti QX80 at your local Infiniti retailer.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal. Always.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset.
Me, Jimmy Ott, and Charles Henniger for the Thursday evening edition of Game Time presented by Bet Rivers. We're downtown at Jolly Pearl Oyster Bar on North facing Town Square. Game Time, 6 to 8 p.m., presented by Bet Rivers on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
So unfortunately, if you're listening to this show and you watched any SEC basketball last night, it was very likely LSU and Auburn, which did not do a lot for most people around here. But if you did watch any other SEC basketball, it was great. Crazy, but great. There were two other games last night, and both went down to the wire. Arkansas and Missouri played in what looked to be a pack house up at Mizzou Arena. And Arkansas had a 10-point lead with 5 minutes to go, and it vanished. Missouri finished the game on a 22-9 run. Arkansas had 4 guys foul out of the game. 4 foul outs plus the 2 injuries they've got. That'll do a number on your depth. And Missouri wins the game by 3, 79-76, sending Arkansas to 1-5 in conference play. Missouri steadies at 3-3. The Muss Bus is off the rails right now, and I watched his post-game press conference just to kind of see what his demeanor would be like after seeing his team have 4 guys foul out, one of which was on one of the most questionable calls I've ever seen. Missouri guy just shot a baseline leaner. There was 3 feet of separation between him and the Arkansas defender, and they called it a foul. I don't know how it happened. It was something to see. But he was visibly frustrated. He was asked a question about the officiating that I guess is supposed to be asked, but there's a no-win for the coach. He said, look, I can't talk about it. But to have 4 guys foul out, to be that low on depth, and to have a 10-point lead evaporate in 5 minutes and lose in regulation, 79-76, to fall to 1-5, shocking for Eric Musselman. And I said it on yesterday's show. I'll say it again today. This is an NIT team in Arkansas right now. And the latest bracketology had them at a 6 seed. That's fine. They've lost a game this week. They'll tumble a couple spots, I'm sure. But you look at Arkansas right now, and it got 1 win, and it was in league play. It was a home game against Missouri. Now they've got 2 very winnable games coming up with Ole Miss and LSU at home, and then they go to Baylor and they've got Texas A&M and South Carolina. So the lighter portion of the schedule is right here in front of them, but then you got some issues at the back end of your schedule because your last 3 league games are at Alabama, at Tennessee, home Kentucky. So Arkansas has got to get the hay in the barn before they get to the end. I mean, at least that's the way I would look at it. I guess if you're Eric Musselman, you say, well, those are our chances to get big wins to elevate our resume, and that's fine, but they're going to be easier said than done, especially because you're 1-5 right now. Just some tough sled for the Arkansas Razorbacks right now under Eric Musselman. Arkansas did cover last night, so I lose that portion of the bet. But Missouri wins the game. And then, if you thought LSU was not very good on the offensive side of the basketball, I've got some news for you. Florida was a lot worse in the first half. A lot worse. You're probably saying, that's impossible. How could you be worse than LSU in the first half? LSU started 4 of 20-something. I know. Florida, lots worse. Lots worse. They made 2 field goals in the first half. 2. They had 12 points at halftime in College Station. And if you didn't catch the score and you just heard the intro of my segment, you'd say, wait a second, you said there were 2 games that went down to the wire. Now you're telling me Florida only made 2 field goals and had 12 points in the first half. That's right. Texas A&M only had 23 points at the half. But unlike LSU, who was a little better offensively in the second half than they were in the first half, Florida turned it on in the second half and really played well. They scored 40 points, but that only gets you to 52, so you're going to have to play some defense. They did. And they held Texas A&M to 31 in the second half. It just wasn't quite enough. And A&M got the 2-point win inside Reed Arena. That moves the Aggies to 5-0. The closing seconds were nuts. So Florida had the basketball down 3. And A&M forced a turnover with like 10 seconds to go. And I watched Boots Radford take the run out on this turnover, up 3 with 8-9 seconds to go. And I'm thinking he needs to run the clock out, was my original thought. And he didn't, and he scored. And I went, that's a mistake. And I'll come back to that in a second, put a pin in it. But they went up 5 with 10 seconds to go. And Florida came down and threw a 3 in with 2.5 seconds to go. And then I realized, no, that was the right play to go score, because if you wait for them to foul you, which they would have done with 4 seconds left, you still had a 1-and-1 opportunity. You might miss it. Now you're only up 3. So going to score was the right play by Boots Radford. They go up 5. Florida throws in a desperation 3 with 2.5 seconds left. So now it's only a 2-point game. And then all A&M's got to do is inbound the ball and hold it. And they'll foul you, and there's 2 seconds left. But they dropped the ball, and it went out of bounds. So Florida got it back. Florida was down 5 with 7 seconds left, and they got the ball back with 2 seconds left and a chance to win it. And they got the inbound play in, and the Florida kid pumped. The A&M kid did not bite. Very good coaching, very good awareness. And the Florida kid was kind of contorted at that point looking for a foul, and he threw up an air ball, and A&M got out alive. So the final score there was 54-52. Now all of a sudden you look up, and A&M is 5-0 in league play. They didn't cover. I took them, and they didn't cover because they only won by 2. But they're 5-0 in league play. They've won 7 straight. And now they got 2 road games to kind of go prove it. I'm not buying Texas A&M right now. I don't think their talent level's great. I think they play hard. Their defense has been excellent the last couple of weeks. They held Florida to 52, South Carolina to 53, Missouri to 64, LSU to 56, Florida to 63. They're playing good defense, which you would expect them to do. I think they're limited on offense. But their next 2 games coming up are Kentucky and Auburn on the road. At Rupp on Saturday, at Auburn coming up next Wednesday. They can win one of those 2. They're all of a sudden back in the NCAA picture. And that is not something I would have considered, considering they lost to Wofford when they scored 62 points. They got beat by Memphis. They got beat by Boise State by 15 points. Colorado thumped them by 28. They lost to Murray State by 9 points. I mean, at that point, you're looking up at them. You're going, well, this team is 6-5 with losses to Wofford and Boise State and Murray State. But Buzz has kept coaching them, and they've kept believing. And now they're starting to win games. And I don't mean to relate it back to LSU and say that run in November is the same as LSU getting hammered nightly in the SEC for 3 weeks. But that's going to be the task for LSU. You're going through a dark time. Everybody outside the building could have forecasted these losses. How they look, maybe not quite. But does LSU have the resolve that A&M has shown to come to work in a good mood, to focus on what you got to do, and then to play a little bit better and score a little bit more freely on offense? It's so demoralizing for LSU to not be able to score. In fact, I think it's more demoralizing to be bad on offense and good on defense than bad on defense and good on offense. You get what I'm saying? LSU's actually had that the last 2 Wade era years. You had Javonte and Cam Thomas and Watford, and they were really good on offense and they couldn't stop anybody. And they had last year with Pinson and Gaines, Murray, and you were you were better on defense. You couldn't score. But when you can't score, it's just demoralizing because every shot that goes through on the other side feels backbreaking. Oh my God, Auburn hit a 3. I know they're only 4 for 16, but every time they hit it, it goes from 5 to 8. And you're like, we're down 8. How are we going to score 8? You can't get a stop. At least you're thinking, all right, I'm going to score again. Just give me the ball. Neither one, I don't think, is more effective in winning or losing. If you're really bad on one side of the floor, you're gonna lose games. But it's just not as deflating to go 4 of 21 to start a game, and then every time the other team scores, which isn't that often because LSU's defense hasn't been that bad, save Alabama. It's like, God, this is just, we got to get another stop. It's a tough mental space LSU's in right now, and they're gonna have to dig out of it. They're pretty old, which can work for you because you're more mature, or can work against you because it's like, how much longer am I actually going to be here? If you're a freshman and you're thinking you're laying the foundation for the program, maybe there's a little more pep in your step. It can work either way. But LSU's got its work cut out for it on Saturday. Tennessee coming to town. We'll talk about the Vols tomorrow on the show. Last night, some classic SEC basketball. Arkansas in big trouble, and A&M just chugging right along. But they'll have their work cut out for them coming up on Saturday with the Cats up in Rupp. All right, we'll take a timeout. 30 minutes to go. Take it or leave it. It'll finish us up. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Love telling you about David Duvall, our friends at One Bath and Closets. I know y'all are heading over to the website, onebathandclosets.com. I encourage you to do so. They've got pictures of what they can do inside your bathroom. They're great testimonials of the type of work that David Duvall and his team do at One Bath and Closets. I can promise you, they're going to show up on time. They're going to treat you fairly. They're going to put a schedule forward. They're going to finish on time, and they're not going to come back 3 weeks later because they did something wrong and cut a corner, and they got to fix it. They're going to do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. In terms of the closets, if your closet's cluttered, you've got suits in there, you got a million shoes, you're sharing a closet, you've just got clutter, let them come in, look what they can do with some cubbies and mirrors and hooks and racks. Maybe you need a full-scale closet renovation remodel. Maybe you just need to use your space more efficiently. They'll tell you over at One Bath and Closets, and if you tell them that the Hunt Palmer Show sent you from 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge, they're not going to charge you to rip out the old closet. They're not going to charge you for the installation of the new one. They're just going to charge you for the cost of that unit. David Duvall and his team, been in the business for 3 decades. Check out the website, onebathandclosets.com. Website again, onebathandclosets.com.
Our listeners fire up their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Time doesn't stop, and the world keeps spinning. Community, culture, and communications. The powerful circle that connects us together. We're creating the next evolution. A network built for every possibility. Moving faster than ever before. Streaming us forward into the future. And the revolution is closer than you think. RTC, ETEL, and Vision are now Rev. New name, same company.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Have you ever heard the tale of the misunderstood bull? A menacing beast that was born to float. A force of nature. The embodiment of grace. Quite grand, yet quiet and nimble. The Infinity QX80.
Experience the Infinity QX80 at your local Infinity retailer.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal.
On Friday's OTB, it's time for the weekend, and we get you ready for all the hot NFL playoff action. Plus, what do the Pelicans need to do to get out of this current slide? Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
So, not unexpected news on this Thursday, but news nonetheless. The announcement came from former Oklahoma State quarterback Spencer Sanders that he will be headed to Oxford, Mississippi to play for Ole Miss. This is an Ole Miss segment, not necessarily an LSU segment, even though I think most people around here would prefer to twist it into an LSU segment. That's not really the point. But Spencer Sanders has been a starter at Oklahoma State for 4 years. He threw for 2,000 yards and 16 touchdowns in 2019. We all know how far away that can seem. But last year at Oklahoma State as a senior, played in 10 games, completed 58% of his throws, threw for 2,600 yards, 17 touchdowns, 9 picks. He's also a threat with his legs. He can move a little bit. Last year, he ran it 107 times, ended up running for 391 yards and 8 touchdowns. In his career at Oklahoma State, he's run for 18 scores. So kind of a dual threat guy with a ton of experience at Oklahoma State, and he's going to go to Oxford, Mississippi. Now, the immediate reaction, I think, for every LSU fan is to gnash teeth and go, Walker Howard just went to the same place he did that he was in at LSU. They got to bring in a transfer who's going to be the starting quarterback, and they got a guy who's a veteran who's ahead of him, and now he's just going to sit there and he's going to run the scout team again, and then I can't believe he left LSU. Calm down. We don't have all the information. And I don't believe, this is just me spitballing here, that Lane Kiffin sat the Howard family down and said, yeah, Dart's going to be the QB, and then you're coming up in a year. And then 30 hours later, signed a fifth-year senior quarterback. That's not how this stuff works. I'm not here to suggest to you that every single recruit is delivered every bill of goods ever sold. Clearly not. Jalen Rashada is about to transfer out of Gainesville. He hadn't even showed up yet. But this was something that people knew was coming. Spencer Sanders was going to go to Oxford. And I'm telling you that Spencer Sanders, who's been a starting quarterback for 4 years in college football, did not transfer to Ole Miss to duke it out with Jackson Dart. That's just not the way this thing works. So, I can infer, this is an inference, but I'm just looking at the situation as it stands. This is a quicker way to the field for Walker Howard. How? You take Jackson Dart out of the picture. I'm not in charge of that. I'm not reporting that that's done. But all of a sudden, Spencer Sanders has to leave after this year. Jackson Dart does not. Garrett Nussmeier does not at LSU. So before you throw your hands up and go crazy, it's not the same as LSU. As far as it goes for Ole Miss, I think Sanders is a decent enough player. If you've listened to this show for any amount of time, you know that I think that Lane Kiffin's a really good quarterback coach and play caller. I think he's done it with guys who can run around a little bit. I think he's done it with pocket passers. I think he can mold most quarterbacks into a productive offense. Spencer Sanders was in an offense that's been tailored for quarterbacks to go nuts. Mike Gundy has put up huge numbers most of his time in Stillwater. And Sanders didn't put up huge numbers. He never threw for more than 20 touchdowns in a season. And back in the Les Miles, not Oklahoma State days, the Baton Rouge days, 20 touchdowns would seem like an unreachable star. Not anymore. You can throw for 20 touchdowns most places here. So I think this is a nice ad for Lane Kiffin. I'm not totally sold that he's a lot better than Jackson Dart. And we'll see what he's got in Walker Howard. But I think, my opinion, is that Lane determined that his best course of action for the future, which can change on a dime, which you see with Spencer Sanders coming in and Jackson Dart coming in before that, is to go, okay, let's place with Spencer Sanders with Walker Howard as the future. And if I evaluate Walker Howard over the next, from January, 12 months, and think that we may need to add something on top of that, we'll do it. But I got to get my team ready for this year in one breath, and then the future in a far more distant breath. I think Sanders is better than Dart. We'll go with him. And then I've got Walker Howard as my next guy, and then we'll see what happens next. That's my opinion on what I think is going to happen. I believe Jackson Dart will enter the transfer portal at some point. He may already be in, and somebody's got to look to report that, or it'll happen eventually. They haven't started school quite yet, but I think that's likely. So before you jump up and down and yell and scream and throw drinks off the wall about Walker Howard, don't think the situations are the same. I'm pretty comfortable assuming that Walker Howard had a discussion with Brian Kelly about their quarterback room, and he had a discussion about Lane Kiffin about their quarterback room. I don't think it's a big guess here. You kind of got to figure it out and do what you got to do. But that's the case right now, as Ole Miss has reeled in Spencer Sanders, former Oklahoma State quarterback. I think he's going to be a starting quarterback for the Rebels next year, and we'll see how that all shakes out. Lane Kiffin loves him some transfer portal. If you can't sign 4 and 5 stars on signing day, which Ole Miss doesn't do a ton of, just go get the seniors when the time comes. And that's what he's done over there in Oxford, and we'll see what that means for his offense. But I don't think it spells great news for Jackson Dart. Mind you, again, tonight's event, Strikeout ALS. Really excited to get over to Red Stick Social from 5 to 10 tonight. Our team's going to be bowling about 7:30 p.m. this evening. Austin and Aaron Nola do such an awesome job teaming up to help raise critical funds and awareness for ALS awareness. We're going to be up there at Red Stick Social. You can get tickets at als.org/strikeoutals. Can't wait to hang out tonight, knock a few pins down, maybe have a couple of beverages and some delicious food over at Red Stick Social, and raise some money for a great cause. It'd be great to see Austin and Aaron, who were such great ambassadors for LSU and pretty salty ball players in their own right for sure. So looking forward to that this evening. We'll take one more time out, come back, we'll play a little bit of Take It or Leave It, and then we'll turn things over to Matt Moscona. It's 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The NFL playoffs are heating up, and with FanDuel, every play is a rush. New customers join today so you can bet the divisional round with $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Sign up with the promo code 1045 ESPN. America's #1 sportsbook has all your favorite bets from the money line to point spreads to player props. Plus, with FanDuel, you can even combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. It's all on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So football fans, don't miss out. Place your first $5 bet to get $150 in free bets, win or lose, with the promo code 1045 ESPN. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Must be 21 and present in Louisiana. First online real money wager, only $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is knowledge free bet that expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. If you're somebody who has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-877-770-STOP.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Start your day with news and newsmakers. Start your day with traffic, weather, and local stories that are important to you. Kickstart your day every day. Mornings with Brian Haldane from 6 to 9 a.m. Weekdays on Talk 107.3.
Before we begin any electrical work here, we perform a home safety check that begins at your electrical panel to make sure that you and your family are safe. For all your upgrades, installations, and repairs, call Mr. Electric.
Time doesn't stop, and the world keeps spinning. Community, culture, and communications, the powerful circle that connects us together. We're creating the next evolution, a network built for every possibility, moving faster than ever before, streaming us forward into the future. And the revolution is closer than you think. RTC, ETEL, and Vision are now Rev. New name, same company.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best,
Hannah, join us for the Friday edition of Handy Time. We start with Jimmy Ott's Game Time from Rufino's at 10 a.m. Take you all the way up until 1 o'clock. Big weekend in college basketball, plus the NFL divisional playoffs. Handy Time, noon weekdays, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
It's a good day to be Cam Jordan today. longtime Saints defensive end, as you're aware, probably, was fined $50,000 for faking an injury back on December 5th against Tampa. And Cam kind of made a big deal about it in the media and said, look, this is questioning my integrity. I've never been a guy to do that. This is not the way this should have gone down. I will appeal. And he did. And he won. The NFL has come back on that $50,000 fine. Also going to be a good day for Dennis Allen, who was fined $100,000 for that. He's good. Ryan Nielsen fined $50,000. He's good. So Saints organization was fined $350,000. I think they'll be okay, but that's good for them too. So Cam Jordan wins that appeal. Look, that's a really hard thing to prove. It doesn't mean that you're blowing a knee out that you can't play in the next play, and then all of a sudden you realize it's too late and try to get off the field. It's too difficult. Go down. You can go down if something doesn't feel right. And I don't know what happened to Cam Jordan, but you better damn well know that nothing is wrong and that he's faking it if you're going to fine the man $50,000. So it doesn't appear that that was the case. So Cam Jordan, not $50,000 lighter after that one. All right, Taylor Sharp, let's play some Take It or Leave It.
Yeah, let's do it. Starting with Hunt Palmer's favorite organization, Live Golf has partnered with the CW to broadcast his tournaments. Friday will be streamed on the CW app. Saturdays and Sundays will be available on TV and the app. Take it or leave it.
Well, I'm going to leave it in a big way. This is a joke. It's pathetic. It's the only thing they can do. I will not watch a shot ever. But they've got an issue. They've got a group on Fridays to watch these stupid golf tournaments. You've got to download the CW app. Who even has that? And it's the only way you can watch. And then you've got to watch on the CW or the app over the weekend to watch this clown show. And what's more important is that they can't use YouTube anymore. You already had this thing that was being streamed on the most popular app on the world, YouTube. Now you can't. You got to put it on the CW app that nobody even has. I'm assuming dozens will be watching the first time they tee off. Cool, they're in shorts. Look at this team match between the Fireballs and the High Flyers. Pass. Bunch of losers.
What do you even watch on the CW app? You could probably see Drake on Degrassi.
Is Dawson's Creek on the CW?
I would imagine it is.
That's excellent. Going to way outdraw Live Golf, I promise you that.
The Buccaneers have officially fired Byron Leftwich today. That will be the last OC fired in the NFC South this month. Take it or leave it.
Well, when I wrote this, I would have said I was going to take it, but in fact, this time I'm going to leave it because it doesn't appear that Pete Carmichael is going anywhere. If you haven't listened to the show today and you're just tuning in, jumping in the car, the Saints are going to keep Pete Carmichael, and I thought it would be interesting to look at Byron Leftwich. I thought it would be interesting to look at Greg Roman from the Ravens, but the announcement has kind of been leaked to a couple of media outlets down in New Orleans. Hey, they're going to stay put, and it's been amazing to look at the reactions from the Saint beat writers, some of which I think are partial to the Saints and some of which I don't think are partial at all, but the unanimous thought is, hey, it was a good idea to keep this thing together because we had a really good thing going for 15 years. It didn't work. So if you stand pat now, you're just willfully putting yourself in a position to fail again. And I think there needs to be some life interjected. And as I talked about when we were talking about Greg Roman, there are 10 OC jobs open in the NFL right now, all of which are more attractive than coming to be some sort of offensive innovator that does not have the OC position in New Orleans, for a coach who's not exactly well established in Dennis Allen, and for an offensive coordinator that's going to be doing most of the work in Pete Carmichael. So the opportunity to go hire somebody to really infuse some life into you is not really there. So what the Saints are telling you is that they're betting on a healthy team totally turning this thing around offensively. Or they're telling you that they thought the offense was good enough this year. One of the two. Neither one of those things seems very reasonable to anybody that's taking in this information. So the Bucs are cleaning house. And it probably should start with Todd Bowles, but it's not. They're going to give him another shot. So they fired 8 assistants, including Byron Leftwich. I think they're going to have a new quarterback next year as well. So the South is something else right now.
just hours after it was announced that offensive coordinator Kendall Briles was leaving Arkansas for TCU, Arkansas announced the hiring of Dan Enos from Maryland. The Hogs will be running wild this fall. Take it or leave it.
I'll leave that. I do think Dan Enos is a very good offensive coordinator. He did a really good job under Brett Bielema. They had the Brandon Allen teams. They ran the ball pretty well with that stable of backs. They had that huge offensive line with Skipper and all those guys. And they threw it around a little bit, and they were pretty creative. So I think this is a pretty good hire from Sam Pittman. I think Kendall Briles is a pretty good hire as well. Sam Pittman's got the organization running pretty well by Arkansas standards. They found out that Kendall Briles was going to be moving on to TCU. That had been agreed upon. And he made a hire pretty quickly, and I don't think he had to go very far forward. Dan Enos, I think, liked his time in Fayetteville. They had some success there until it all fell apart under Brett Bielema. But I think he can come in and do a reasonable job. It's always a nice thing when you come in as an offensive coordinator and you've got a quarterback who's very, very seasoned. And KJ Jefferson has had 2 full years of being the guy, 2 productive years of being the guy. So while I'm not going to buy a bunch of Arkansas stock, I think that probably reached its peak in year 2 under Sam Pittman in this division. I do think that for Arkansas, that's a pretty good hire. Now, they had a massive amount of exits in the transfer portal on both sides of the ball. I think the defense is going to be real questionable. And I just think that's an uphill battle up there in Fayetteville to continue to put out a solid product. You haven't really seen anybody sustain it. You saw Petrino reach those heights in 2011, and then all hell broke loose and he was gone. Then you saw Bielema come in and go 0-16 or 0-17 before he finally beat LSU, and then won 9 games, and then it fell out of there on him. Then you saw Chad Morris never get it going, and then you see Pittman take over a dumpster fire, reach 9 wins, and now we'll see if it falls apart. It's just kind of what seems to happen up there. But again, I think Enos is a fine hire. I think they did it economically and efficiently. But as I always say, we make fun of schools for taking forever or quote-unquote swinging and missing on coaches. Or we're looking at LSU, and Ed Ogeron's trying to hire an offensive and a defensive coordinator, and it's taking a really long time. Even Jimbo Fisher took a really long time. The process doesn't really matter. The result of the process is what actually matters. You can hire immediately a terrible coach. You can take forever and hire a great one. It just matters what the results are. I think Dan Enos is a fine hire. I think they'll probably score some points next year. I don't think they'll win a ton of games because I just don't think they've got the talent there to do it. So that's my thoughts on that. That's take it or leave it here on a Thursday. And that'll do it for us here on a Thursday. If you missed any of the show, you can always catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com. You go to 1045ESPN.com. If you click that on demand tab, all the shows pop down. And we've got all the content there every single day at 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab. You can also find us on Spotify. That's where a lot of people like to grab their audio, their podcast. We are right there. Search Hunt Palmer Show. You can find us on Apple Podcast. If that's where you fancy your audio, just search the Hunt Palmer Show right there. If you would like, subscribe, rate, and review, that would mean a ton to us there. Get our audio in front of as many people as we possibly can. YouTube, also a great avenue for us. Every show uploaded immediately after we go final on the Watch 1045 ESPN channel, presented by Bayou Ford. And then we do a great job of putting up like 10-minute clips that Taylor finds every single day that are not the entire show, but pretty easily digestible, and you get those if you subscribe to our channel. So those of you in the Bayou Ford chat right now, throw us a like if you would. Always appreciate you all subscribing as well. You get a notification when we go live and get all the content sent right to your fingertips. So we appreciate it. On today's show, started things off talking LSU basketball and kind of a State of the Union type deal. I didn't talk much about the LSU-Auburn game. There's not much to say. They couldn't score. But talk about kind of where they are and what the expectation was and should be. Omar Spates, maybe leaning towards LSU. Who's that? Potential linebacker from Morgan State. We talked about that at 1:15. And a final look back at the transfer portal at 1:30. Saints making moves or lack thereof at the end of hour number 1. I talked NFL playoffs at the top of hour number 2, then got into some Southeastern Conference hoops, and then looked at the Ole Miss quarterback situation at 2:30 before we played a little take it or leave it. Hope to see y'all out at Red Stick Social tonight. We'll be there for the Strikeout ALS with Austin and Aaron Nolan knocking some pins down. You can always find us same time, same place tomorrow. Jimmy Ott's Game Time coming at you from 6 to 8 this evening. Matt Moscone about to drive you home on After Further Review. Hope you'll have a wonderful rest of your Thursday. We will see you on a Friday getting you ready for a divisional round and LSU basketball. It's the Hunt Palmer Show, 1045 ESPN, Baton Rouge.